Bryce technical. And that's when I stopped driving. I was like,
You shouldn't have to be somebody.
no, because it's, like I said, it's going to be the one cop who doesn't recognize my face. It's so big. So luckily I got guys like Chris who still driving me off work. You don't want to see me killed today.
That's a good friend.
Have you talked about that stuff on the air?
I did it in our 6 days of May.
I did.
My documentary talked about it now. It'll look for the people at town for what it's all really going to be about. I know, right?
Did the city council vote on the settlement? Why?
I don't know. Stuff's getting crazy. 11 days. Figure out if we can have a police department.
Yeah, well, I've interviewed Lisa Bender this week. She's very like playing it down. Like it's all it is like creating this public safety department, moving the police into it, and hiring an interim public safety director. What if Rob Rondo was going to do it? Well, hopefully, we'll have somebody that are you going to go something in law enforcement or somebody who's like that? Some type of.
Well, that's why Philippe Cunningham is going to John Jay College in New York to get his master's, so he can do that.
Great person.
Perfect person for it.
He claimed in that debate with Patricia that he didn't know the sign.
Oh, yeah, that's what he says.
He says he walked in from behind, he exited from behind, he never knew.
Yeah.
The stage said he was done.
I just sent him Bible scripture about lying. And he sent me a text. I'm going to do so unfair to the about lying. Thou shalt not lie.
Thou shalt not bear false witness.
Yeah. And he's cussing in his Facebook. Praise God and cuss at the same time. He said, quit texting me when you're upset, but I'm going to text you back the Bible scripture. That was the wrong person, dude. I feel sorry for you.
I don't know about Jeremiah.
That's fair.
Oh. You don't know about what I'm saying?
I don't know about Jeremiah Ellison, if he is as vulnerable as.
He's a great muralist. He's a great muralist.
Is he really?
Great artist. Why are you laughing?
I was just saying, that's it.
They said that's nice. That's what you know. He's a great muralist. He's an incredible artist.
They built a mural like on the brick building on West Boundary.
Everybody, Michael will be here in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Work at South Iowa.
Charles Caldwell, yeah.
That is no one.
He's an incredible artist.
Yeah, I know about that. Those are like constellation pictures. Yeah. Anyhow.
You gotta go. Oh, when you're pitching it, they're all the managers in their phone. Like, well, that's.
Yeah, that's like, that was one thing about soybeans. Should I get some eye contact? But now that the soybeans are in Senegal, you don't know. Of course, things that our news director, Stacy, she's like, her facial expressions, like her mute, like she just gets these visual reactions to things. It's like, it's almost like you can see the steam coming out of her, like you're wasting her time with like a pitch that is destined to like not happen. That's the one thing about BTN that I like that Jana will actually, she's kind of like the editorial control. She'll
Good afternoon. I think you all have had a chance to review the complaint, the press release, and my separate statement about it's time to reform the pursuit policy in this state. And I guess the best thing I can do is take questions.
What led to this charging decision? What makes this case different?
Well, there are really two things that are occurring here. One is we are charging this officer with both criminal vehicular homicide and with manslaughter in the second degree for his culpable and gross negligence in driving a squad car at 90 miles an hour in a residential neighborhood at 12:30 at night and not slowing down adequately at the intersection which he was entering on a red light and killing someone. That's tragic, that's criminal, that's why we charge. The second part, for me, and the reason I had a separate statement about the pursuit policy, which I signed, is because I've been very concerned about pursuits in this state for a number of years. The county attorney charges and prosecutes cases. I don't necessarily set the policy of police departments or other entities, but sometimes the policies are so poorly done that I need to get involved. I've tried to informally and behind the scenes get involved to improve the policy, and it simply has not worked. So it is time, in this case, which is as egregious as anyone I've seen, to do something about it, and I have.
In your opinion, what policy changes would you make to the pursuit policy? What would you change?
Well, first off, over 50% of the pursuits that are done are merely for traffic violations, and only about 8% are for felonies. It seems to me a high-speed chase ought to only be done when it's a serious and violent felony. That's not what the policies say. Secondly, you know, if you look at some of the cases, recent cases, you have this one, driving through a residential neighborhood, narrow streets at 90 plus miles an hour, at night, not knowing what's around the next corner, notified that the crimes that these people allegedly committed were not significantly violent or dangerous, and then driving towards an intersection at close to 100 miles an hour. I mean, the technology shows that he was driving at 68 miles an hour upon impact. Officers are trained, he had his sirens and his lights on, and officers are trained that they can run through red lights, but they've got to approach them at a speed in which they can stop or take evasive action. And they got to do it for good reason. Minor felonies, 12:30 a.m., 90 miles an hour, residential, that's wrong. Now, this is not the only one. As you know, the case when people were being pursued and the car was near Matt's Bar in South Minneapolis and killed 3 people. Or the recent State Patrol case when they were chasing and the car being pursued jumped the curb and went into a park and seriously injured 2 kids and hurt another. Or the individual who slid into a police car on his motorcycle when they were going through an intersection in South Minneapolis. There have been 40 fatalities in Minnesota in the last 10 years. There's something like 1,400 in this country. We've had lots of discussions about changes in police policy that need to be done, and this is one that frankly hasn't gotten the attention it should, but I'm tired of seeing people die because of these policies.
Mike, what message does it send to the police officers? You know the context of, the current crime on the street. This is the summertime. Police sources at the time characterized that suspect and that suspect vehicle a little bit differently, not quite as innocently as your statements and in the court files, that it was involved in several violent robberies. It was a carjacked vehicle. We're asking Minneapolis police to be aggressive, to stop crime, to stop suspects, but here, probably someone in good faith went after a suspect and it ends in tragedy. That's going to add up to the same thing Mohammed Noor was just sentenced on yesterday?
Oh, you can't begin to compare what Mohammed Noor did with what happened in this case. First off, He was charged and convicted of third-degree homicide for depraved mind, and that was a proper conviction, and the Supreme Court reversed it only because they said that statute only applies when you're not shooting at a particular victim. What Mohammed Noor did was evidence of a depraved mind. Here, Officer Cummings drove too fast. He was negligent. I didn't charge him with third-degree murder. But the difference here is how you categorize this. We believe these two individuals stole the car. Somebody walking outside the tire store grabbed her keys. Didn't knock her down, didn't shoot her, grabbed the keys. They got in the car 2 days later. They jumped into 2 Subway stores, not with a gun, didn't injure anyone, pushed him aside, grabbed money under the till. He was told that it was nonviolent, and he stopped him anyway. But I don't care if it was violent. 90 miles an hour, residential neighborhoods late at night, no, period. I don't care what the felony is. You know, we have better technology today. How about the helicopter? How about the cars, other squad cars are out there? How about reporting in the direction they're going? They're going north on Lyndale Avenue very fast. You don't have to do it this way. This is old-style cop work. I understand they have a difficult job. Prosecutors have a difficult job. We're backed up. You know, sometimes even TV reporters have a difficult job. But this is so egregious that we needed to do something, and we did it.
And then the other question I had is just about your decision to charge it. These past police deaths, right, Winston Smith, Kimberly Potter, Dante Wright, you farmed them out. And my understanding was deadly encounters were going to be farmed out because of potential conflict of interest with Minneapolis police and your office. How come you chose to keep this case in your office?
We kept this case because it was not a shooting case, number one. Number two was that this case was substantially investigated by the State Patrol, which is not the Minneapolis Cup. For example, I didn't make the decision in the Winston Smith case because one of the shooters was a Hennepin County deputy. I represent the Sheriff's Department. I think that's a conflict. We have to decide each of these on their own merits. It's been an awkward and difficult situation to work through. You know, I believe if crimes are committed in Hennepin County, I ought to decide them. But lots of folks felt that I shouldn't, and I respected that. But this case clearly belonged in this office. And in case you noticed, Paul, I signed the complaint myself, which is not something I do very often. Other questions?
Going back to the original suspect who was being chased, was he ever caught, and what is the accountability for him in what happened here?
You're talking about the people who were in the Kia?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they were never apprehended. They got away. And that's tragic and that's inappropriate. But, you know, I would rather have them gotten away 6 or 8 blocks earlier. I would have much rather not to have Officer Cummings driving it at 90 miles an hour. And I certainly would have rather Officer Cummings not entering this intersection at 80 plus miles an hour and killing someone. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying you can't start a pursuit. I'm not saying you can't take steps to try to apprehend people. But you've got to use reasonable conduct. Let me try this. We ask a lot of our police officers, and I appreciate that. Okay, shots are fired, they run towards them, we run away. And we also give them license on certain limited circumstances to use deadly force. We give them authority to drive cars faster than you and I should ever drive them. But that authority is not unlimited. It is the same kind of shooting or driving an automobile, which can be a deadly weapon, that is not appropriate. And I think what we have learned is we need to have rules. We need to have clear-cut rules and make sure that they follow them. Now, I'm sure, as I'm standing here, that there'll be a number of members of the law enforcement community who will vigorously disagree with me. And I just asked them, let's look at the last 40 fatalities in Minnesota. And were they justified? And how do we cut those out? And the best way I know how to cut them out are 2 ways. Number one, have a policy that they must follow, and they must get the training to do that. And secondly, officers got to know if they're as brazen and as negligent as Officer Cummings at least as long as I'm here, they're going to get charged. I'll take one. You've already had more than your share. Yeah, John.
Yesterday, Sheriff Fletcher told senators at the Capitol that he'd like enhanced penalties for people who flee and break other traffic laws while fleeing, including driving the wrong lane, running too lights and things like that. Is that something you could get behind?
You know, that's interesting, and I'm happy to take a look at it. I don't like people fleeing. I don't like them driving too fast. I think there's a number of penalties we can do. If this car had been driving, and they're the ones that hit Mr. Fraser, a total innocent, driving to his girlfriend's house, for goodness sakes, at 12:30 at night, I would have charged them. But the person that caused the death of Mr. Fraser was Cummings, and that's why I charged him. I'll take two more. You guys in the middle got anything?
I was gonna ask, how rare is it for you to charge a police officer in a police pursuit? Is this the first time you've ever charged one?
I think so, Reg. I think that this is best I can tell the first time we have ever done this. I'm not looking, it gives me no pleasure to charge a police officer, okay? But police officers, like prosecutors, like judges, like state senators, got to follow the rules. And if the rules are too mushy or the code of standards are too weak, then we got to make them clearer. And we got to make sure the training. And the reason that this is so much difficult for police officers is they've got a tough job. They're dealing with people who may have weapons themselves. They may be dealing with people who are driving too fast. But there are limits about what they can do, and Officer Cummings broke those limits. Thank you all very much.